and now look to Julian Kirk, Secretaries Committee, to open the case for the opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and happy birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, as Elizabeth has made very clear to you, we do indeed live in trying times. There is a great deal of uncertainty ahead of us all as we as a nation seek to move forwards into a new political atmosphere. This is an atmosphere dominated by the twin spectres of Russian aggression and terrorism, and one in which Britain's place in the world is in the process of being defined. Will we look to the future, or will we remain stuck in the politics of the past? Will we seek to make Britain more secure in difficult times, or will we seek to diminish it? Will we deliver opportunities for all, or allow those who have lost out in the lottery of birth to fall behind their more privileged peers? It is by these three metrics that we must judge in whom we have confidence, and it is by these three metrics that the future of our nation will be decided. And it is the burden of the proposition this evening to demonstrate that there at present exists an alternative to this government more capable of leading Britain into the new world that is being shaped as I speak at this moment. But before I seek to show that no such alternative exists and that the government of Theresa May is one in which we should all have confidence, it is my very great privilege to introduce the proposition this evening. We've all just heard from Elizabeth Webb, a third-year theology student at Regent's Park College, chair of the Debate Selection Committee here at the Union, and a member of Standing Committee. Now, I first met Elizabeth 2 years ago when I was a participant in the Oxford Schools debating competition, and she was one of the judges. Now, I'm sure you know where this one's going. I clearly didn't make that much of an impression because she has no recollection of the event when I last talked to her about it, and in any case ranked me second from bottom in that particular competition. In fact, in her estimation, I don't appear to have improved very much. All she had to say about my speech-making ability last time we talked about it was that I have a lovely siren's voice. And I do hope, in any case, that any siren song I sing for you this evening does not lead you onto the rocks. In fact, I'll leave that particular task for whoever's behind the bar. And now, turning to another of Scotland's most well-known exports, we have Mary Black, SNP MP for Paisley and Renfrewshire South, and baby of the House of Commons. Now, debating here must, I'm sure, be quite a refreshing experience. For once, you're not the youngest person in the room. You're not even the youngest person at the debate, you're actually the second youngest. So that must be quite a new experience. And finally, you'll hear from John Mann MP, chair of the all-party parliamentary group against anti-Semitism, well known for publicly confronting Ken Livingstone concerning the supposed Zionism of Adolf Hitler, a vocal opponent of Jeremy Corbyn, and a Brexiteer to boot. Quite an interesting chap, I think we can all agree. And I'm sure he will hope, as many of us will hope with him, that he manages to restore reason to the Labour Party in the next few years. Mr. President, these are your guests tonight, and they are most welcome. Now, before I move on to my substantive argument this evening, I'm going to respond to a few of the things Elizabeth has put before the House. First of all, I think it's a little bit rich of the opposition, or rather the proposition in this case, to be criticising the Conservative Party for having problems with the parliamentary party. And in fact, it is the Conservative Party that welcomes debate within its own party as an important part of the democratic process, something Jeremy Corbyn could take a few notes from, I think. Secondly, on the NHS, this Conservative government has committed to putting in exactly the quantity of money that the NHS has asked for, and that's on track to happen, as Philip Hammond announced at party conference. Now, on Brexit, it's been 4 months. These negotiations might well last 15 years. It's not particularly surprising that after 4 months, we haven't yet unravelled tens of thousands of pages of legislation and worked out which we want to keep and which we want to remove. Indeed, it's borderline delusional to suggest that any government might be able to do that. And that appears to be a theme in the Labour Party, as I'll move on to demonstrate this evening. Now, on grammar schools work in specific circumstances, and these circumstances are the same ones being delivered by this government. In Germany and Switzerland, there is even more selective education than in this country, and those two educational systems work extremely well, some of the best in Europe, and that's because they combine grammar schools with apprenticeships that this government has introduced and is expanding, providing jobs for those who need them, which this government has been doing quite well at, I'll have you know, and committing to full employment, which we can achieve by tailoring supply to demand, by jiggling with the apprenticeship numbers in various sectors. And this brings me on again to this idea that having lists of foreign workers in businesses is somehow a bad thing. In fact, Obama introduced exactly the same scheme. It exists in Germany, it exists in half of Western Europe. So to decry it as somehow fascistic is a little bit ridiculous. Moreover, what this shows is the skills deficit we have in this country, when we are relying on immigration for so much of our NHS, for so much of our business. Without it, it would appear that we would collapse. And therefore, it is vital that we have such lists, such that the government knows the size of the skills deficit and is able to respond to it. Now I'll move on to my points. The Conservative government since 2010 has led the way in the West in a number of respects in terms of advancing equal opportunities for all, regardless of race, gender, or creed. It is this government that recognised the right of same-sex couples to marry the ones they love. It is this government that introduced pioneering reforms to parental leave that exist nowhere else in the world, reducing workplace discrimination against expecting mothers. It is this government that is extending free childcare available to all parents.
Point of information,
yes.
Sir. You do know that all of these changes and reforms you talk about took place beneath the Lib Dem and Conservative coalition government under David Cameron and Nick Clegg, not under Theresa May.
So I'm talking about manifesto promises. The expansion of free childcare was in the Conservative Party manifesto at the last election, and I don't think Nick Clegg wrote that. Now, by contrast, we have Jeremy Corbyn, who presides over a Labour Party in which disagreement is nigh forbidden, and rather than welcomed as a fundamental part of the political process, no thank you. A party in which legitimate concerns are seen as dissent. A party in which those who fall foul of the leadership are subjected to a torrent of abuse, misogyny, and racism, to the point that a Labour MP is currently in police-protected custody to prevent her from being assaulted, physically assaulted, by supporters of her own leader. Jeremy Corbyn has either been unwilling or unable to stop this. Perhaps he's been taking too many lessons in repression from his good friends in Cuba and Iran. And in any case, whose oppression of women in these countries and minorities he has refused repeatedly to condemn. To vote for this motion is to vote for the arrival of a government that would silence free and deliberative debate across this country, denigrating and disrespecting our democratic tradition, of which we must all be so proud. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to defending our democracy, it is in Theresa May, not Jeremy Corbyn, that I have confidence. This is a government that is looking to the future, successfully embracing global enterprising opportunities, forging closer economic ties to China and other emerging markets than any other European nation, bringing in investment, as in the case of the Hinkley Point reactor, which for some reason the Labour Party doesn't seem to support, even though it will create thousands of stable, high-skilled jobs. On top of those millions we've already seen regain employment under this Conservative government. This government is championing free trade across the Atlantic and Asia, demonstrated by Britain's pioneering involvement in the Asian Investment Bank, enriching not just the people of this nation, but the cocoa farmers of West Africa, the IT entrepreneurs of India, and the cattle ranchers of Argentina. This government understands that to open our markets to the world not only improves the competitiveness of British industry, but serves to improve the livelihoods of hard-pressed people across the planet, ensuring that this great nation remains open for business. Business that will create jobs and business that will reduce poverty. And all this stands in stark contrast to the economic policy of Jeremy Corbyn, a man who says we have much to learn from the protectionist policies of Hugo Chavez, policies which brought the starving and collapsing nation of Venezuela to its knees and lower still. This is a government that is looking to the future in a globalized world, not conforming to the dangerous dogma of decades past. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to our economic policy, it is in Theresa May, not Jeremy Corbyn, that I have confidence. In this world, we as a people face dangers greater than any other since the end of the Cold War. Terrorism and state aggression threaten to reshape the world we live in, seeking to usher in an age of mistrust, an age of discord, and an age of endless conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are to be free of the tyranny of fear, we must have a comprehensive strategy to combat radicalization, as Prevent Achieves, introduced by this government, by catching those evil men who seek to prey on young boys and girls to turn them into weapons of war, all opposed by Jeremy Corbyn. If we are to live in a peaceful world, we must stand up for the right to self-determination that is denied to the people of Ukraine, that is denied to the people of Georgia, that is denied to the people of Syria, and uphold the principle that international borders are not to be changed by military force. When it comes to international security and the defence of democracy itself, it is vital that Britain, as one of the most privileged nations on earth, pulls its weight. And this is another area in which the Labour Party fails to do so. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is achieved through comprehensive, constructive action, not the mere proffering of platitudes or the peddling of falsehoods and wishful thinking. And if you listen to Jeremy Corbyn's conference speech 2 weeks ago, you'll understand that that's all that Labour has to offer. Theresa May recognises the importance of an independent nuclear deterrent, one which for 4.5 decades prevented Europe from falling to communism and still protects the eastern borders of democracy itself from the bare beyond. Jeremy Corbyn does not. Theresa May recognises that the path to peace in the Middle East requires military action. It was military action that saved the men of Kobane from summary execution. It was military action that saved the women and children of Mount Sinjar from slavery. And it will be military action that eventually sees the destruction of the so-called Islamic State. Jeremy Corbyn claims to seek a political solution with a group that refuses to negotiate, with a regime that barrel bombs hospitals and gasses school children. If he thinks he can do a better job than hundreds of the world's most experienced diplomats, he truly is a man totally divorced from reality, a man with no credibility, and a man who is utterly unfit to serve as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, when you walk through those doors tonight, you're making a choice. You're choosing between an open and dynamic economy or a return to the days of power shortages and mass unemployment. You're choosing between a society that welcomes free speech and debate or one in which the abuse of good men and women for their beliefs is tolerated. You're choosing between a government committed to playing the role the world demands of it or a cowardly man who sticks his head in the sand while chaos unfolds around him. I trust that you, like the British people, will express confidence in this Conservative government of Theresa May. Mr. President, I rest my case.